Old condo versus new condo. What's the better choice for you? Well, there are a lot of myths and misinformation about buying an old building versus a new building. And I want to attack that head on today and show you guys the difference between an old condo versus a new condo. It's not what you think. I'm Athar Jafri. I've been selling real estate in Mississauga and the GTA for more than 20 years, and my goal is just to make the buying and selling process simple. So let's dive right into it and see the difference between old condos versus new condos. Okay, old condo versus new condo. Not all condos are built the same. Let's dive right in. Here's the breakdown. The number one most important topic of conversation, if I'm honest, when it comes to buying an old building are these maintenance fees. So this might actually be an eye-opener for a lot of buyers if they don't too much understand how maintenance fees works. And then we're going to talk about size and layout, kind of the difference of things that you get in old versus new, construction quality, amenities, and what's the better investment. Is it an old building or a new building if you are buying as an investor? So the most important part of this conversation are these maintenance fees. Now, for old condos, higher fees because units are bigger. Yes, they are higher sometimes, and that is because if you've watched any of my past videos, maintenance fees are based on a dollar per square foot calculation, and a lot of these older units in these older buildings are much larger. We're talking 1,100 square feet. It's very standard in these old buildings for two-bedroom units. So based on that dollar per square foot, you are going to have a higher maintenance fee, but not always. Now, these maintenance fees in older buildings, they are more stable over time. Why I say that is because they have a history of where this money needs to be allocated from the maintenance fees. They know where it has to go. Also, a lot of pain points of that building in the past have been addressed and have been fixed or upgraded so that these problems don't keep persisting. So this allows the maintenance fees to be more stable over time because they know where that money needs to go. They are a well-oiled machine. They know how to allocate it, and they don't need that extra money all the time because a lot of the things and the lemons in the building have already been addressed. Now, also in older buildings, they have very strong reserve funds for the most part. I've seen old buildings with reserve funds of about $4 or $5 million, which is very good. So the reserve fund is basically the savings account for the condo corporation. If there are any unexpected repairs or maintenance that needs to be done, they can dip into that reserve fund. Also, in these older buildings, more utilities generally are included. There's a lot of older buildings that have all utilities included: heat, hydro, and water. And sometimes that can account for a higher maintenance fee, but not always. I mean, I've seen older buildings with 75 cent maintenance fees, which includes everything: heat, hydro, and water. That's 75 cents per square foot, right? In new buildings, this maintenance fee is low at first. So it looks good on paper in the beginning, but within the first, I would say roughly 5-6 years, it can really spike up much faster because there's no history. They don't really know where this money has to be allocated. There could be many unexpected repairs or maintenance required, and this in turn will get them to ask you as the owner of a newer building for more money on that maintenance fee. Also, to build up that reserve fund. So I kind of touched on the higher risk of increases. That's why I kind of touched on the higher risk of increase because they don't really know what they need that money for yet, and all these unexpected things are going to arise, and they got to ask you for more money, plain and simple. And also in these new buildings, yet less utilities included, if any. A lot of these newer buildings, they don't include even water, heat, or hydro. It's a separate bill all on its own that you got to sign up for. Some older buildings don't include all three either, and some newer buildings you still may get like water or heat included. But generally in these newer buildings, less and less utilities are included. So it's not only the maintenance fee you'll be paying in these newer buildings, but also heat, hydro, and water potentially. So all the utilities, right? So let's go on to the next one: size and layout. So old condos, they don't build them like how they used to. They are 20 to 40% larger. You're getting 1,200-1,300 square feet, two-bedroom units. Hard to find in these newer buildings. And if they are there, they're much, much higher in price, right? These dens in a lot of these older buildings, they're like a bedroom, and a lot of them, they even have a door, so it's not like an open space. It's like a full bedroom. I've seen dens as big as 8 feet by 9 feet in some of these older buildings. You also get the bigger kitchens and living rooms. Basically, the whole unit is just bigger in these older buildings because it was more focused on family living, not just a single person or a couple. In these newer buildings, it's smaller, tighter layouts. Because builders wanted to make money, as much money as they could, so they tried to put as many units into each building as possible, and it was more investor focused with these newer buildings. So they didn't really care what the end user thought. They wanted investors to pick them up. Micro dens, that's a big one. You know, sometimes it's embarrassing. It says it's a den on the listing. You go and show it. There's no den there. It's just a little hole in the wall, a little nook, kind of like what you see over here. This little indentation. That's kind of like what they have. It's just a little nook in the wall, and they call that a den. And very narrow living spaces. All in all, just smaller, and smaller units in these newer buildings, okay? Now, build quality, again, they don't build it how you used to. They have much better soundproofing in these older buildings. They have thicker walls, and they use heavier materials. Now it's all about cutting cost and, you know, saving money. So these newer condos, a lot of it is just glass. You get more noise from the neighbors, from the people above you. So it's not the best soundproofing in these newer buildings. The walls are much thinner. And the build is more cosmetic. They want it to look beautiful rather than, you know, structural. That's kind of where things are at nowadays. Everything has to look flashy in these newer buildings, but it does not necessarily mean that it's a solid built condo, right? So let's go on to the next one here. Amenities. Now this one is not always, but old condos generally have fewer amenities, and they're not like these hotel-like amenities. But most of the time you're getting a gym, you're getting a party room. It's pretty standard in these, even in these older buildings, but it's not as flashy, right? And sometimes in these older buildings, you'll get larger gyms and big pools. I've seen some of these older buildings have like really spa-like pools, like good size. You could do laps in there and stuff. But you know what? You also get that in some new buildings. And these older condos, the amenities are cheaper to maintain because it's not so flashy. It's not so hotel-like. It's pretty basic, so it's a lot less to maintain these amenities. Now, in newer condos, again, it's loaded with just flashy amenities. Some people like that, but some people could care less. I mean, really ask yourself, if you've lived in a condo before, how many times have you used these amenities, right? And it is very expensive to operate many times. Even the equipment in the gym is more up to date and more expensive to fix and maintain. And again, because of these reasons, these maintenance fees will jump faster and higher in the beginning for these newer buildings. Investment outlook, what's better? Well, let's break it down. Old condos, you're getting a better price per square foot. For example, let's just say on average, if a one bedroom in Toronto is in a new building is $500,000, you can get a condo 2, even 3 times as big for roughly the same amount, but the building would be about 40 or 50 years old. So it's definitely a much better price per square foot. It does have strong long-term value, and that's because it's just going to steadily go up. It's not going to go spike up or spike down. It just steadily goes up so long as that building has been managed well. And when I say going up, I'm talking about an upward market. So right now the market is downward, so things are all going down, including older buildings and newer buildings alike. So newer condos, they generally have a higher rental demand. People like the new buildings, people like the trendy modern finishes. So, you know, it is high in demand, but that does not always mean it's easy to rent. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot more supply in these newer buildings. So these potential tenants, although they want a new unit to live in as a tenant, you know, they have a lot of options to choose from, which tends to drive the prices a little bit lower when there's too much supply and not enough demand in these newer buildings when it comes to renting them out. So if you are looking to buy a condo, so you should pick an old condo if you want more space, better construction, like stronger builds, and stable maintenance fees. And you should pick a new condo if you want modern finishes, trendy amenities, and it's easy renting just because a lot of people do want these new buildings. Now, it only gets hard to rent the newer buildings if it's straight, you know, after closings, because then all the investors and everybody's putting it up for rent at the same time. But if this new building is like 3, 4, or 5 years old, then it is pretty easy to rent, and people still, you know, relate that to a brand new building because amenities and stuff are very similar. I would say in the last 10 years, the type of build quality and build style is very similar. So at the end of the day, it is really not about how old the condo is, it's about your long-term plan. Okay, you really need to know, is it for your family? Is it for investment? Are you gonna live there for a long time? Are you gonna have kids there? You know, and obviously budget, what your budget allows. In my personal opinion, I have nothing against older buildings. I actually think older buildings sometimes are a much better investment than a newer condo for some of the reasons that I listed here. I hope this helps you kind of narrow your search. Again, if you need any help, I'm Athar Jafri. I've been selling real estate in Mississauga in the GTA for more than 20 years. My phone number is 647-208-9724. And if you have any questions or want more videos like this, just drop a comment below. Until next time.